OPEC is ready to reach a forceful agreement when it meets at the end of this month. That's according to the Venezuelan president, Nicolas Maduro, following his meeting with the OPEC Secretary General, Mohamed Barkindo. Malcolm Graham-Wood joins us now from HydroCarbon Capital. Malcolm, welcome.
Morning.
First of all, Barkindo has described the current situation as the most severe oil market crisis in 50 years. Is this a man who represents an economy that's got a balance sheet screaming out in pain because of low oil prices, or is there genuinely a big market issue with oil?
Well, he would say that, wouldn't he? Is probably the right answer in terms of Venezuela. And there's two things there. Yes, Venezuela are in as bad a state as they've ever been. Often the case when you get these sort of governments doing some things on a political basis and some things on an economic basis. But either way, I mean, to be honest, there isn't really a price at which OPEC can get up to that would save Venezuela very much at the moment. But anything sort of towards 60 is a help. But in terms of what Secretary General Barkindo is saying, is that over the next 2 weeks he is going to be visiting everybody in OPEC. They try and get the line sorted out before the meeting. I mean, it is very likely that the result of the OPEC meeting will be known within OPEC before it's even started. They don't like to have long, drawn-out meetings, and if possible, they'll make a decision on the day, rubber stamp it at the meeting, and come out with it.
Yeah. You mentioned 60. Let's just bring up a price of Brent crude, right? About $47 a barrel at the moment. What is OPEC producing? Because I think there's sort of a golden target, isn't it? But they must be exceeding that. We know that from US oil inventories. I mean, inventories have been building up, and this represents not just the US, of course, but surplus oil around the world.
Yeah, I mean, this is the biggest problem. I mean, at the moment, the ideal amount would probably be, they could probably get away if they managed to reduce it at the meeting to, say, 32.5 million barrels a day. But at the moment, I think they're in 33.5, 34 million territory. That's because Iraq have increased, Iran have been increasing, Nigeria up till very recently had been increasing again. Libya are back on with probably another 1 million barrels a day than they had a few months ago. So the trouble is, if you look out at saying it's going to be 34 or 35 million barrels a day for 2017, you have a problem, a big problem, because all the capex cuts that we were talking about are going to bring oil off the market next year and the year after and so on. But while the OPEC is still out producing, and 34 million barrels a day is out producing, then the supply and demand is still heading the wrong way, and therefore the oil price will be heading the wrong way.
But haven't we been hearing some comfortable words from the likes of Russia, a non-OPEC producer, and a massive producer in its own right? They sound conciliatory in Russia.
I think they are being fairly conciliatory. First of all, people always say things that they will try and make and it would be very much in their best interest to have oil back at $60. They're producing as much as they can as well at the moment. They could be producing maybe 11.5, 12 million barrels a day. You mustn't forget that this OPEC meeting, as with any other OPEC meeting, has huge political undertones in the sense that Russia, it may well be in the position where they have to cut back a bit. And so what they'll do is hold that production cutback until a political opportunity comes along to say, right, we're going to cut 5% along with OPEC. I think there's a general feeling that Russia are going to help this time. And so, the whole OPEC machine is working very hard. As you've seen, we've seen the Secretary General going around. The Saudi oil minister is on the move as well, and he's been making speeches this week. He's also in the process of trying to do Saudi Aramco float, whereby, they don't really want to do that float against a really weak oil price next year. So I think it's in the interest of pretty much everybody to try and get the price up, and that means that, if they have to squeeze a bit out from places where they won't, try and get a deal with Iraq to say they won't increase, maybe have some sort of cut a deal with Iran, get Russia to come back a bit, because, to be honest, OPEC cuts are going to be primarily in Saudi Arabia and maybe a little bit more around the Gulf, but primarily in Saudi Arabia.
Let's just pick up on the point you mentioned about the exploration side, because you said, we've spoken about this before. The point that you've mentioned is the fact that oil price is so low, companies haven't been eager to open their coffers to expend on exploration because they don't know where the price is going, it's not really profitable. We're going to get a supply pinch, aren't we?
Well, we will. I mean, that's not a question of opening the coffers. They open the coffers and there ain't nothing in there. I mean, primarily because the majors, for example, are paying a lot of dividends, and historically they're stuck on high dividend payments, and so the capex numbers are coming down and down and down. And one or two people have got special situations, like Shell with BG, so they're putting two capex budgets together and getting a lot of capex cuts out of that. But I do think that once you get through the situation where OPEC are producing too much, demand picks up from the Far East, for example, India and China, and then those cutbacks come through. Now, I suspect it's probably a year behind what most of us were thinking. We were thinking, I've got a $60 oil price in for the end of this year. I might still get there, but it'll probably be a little bit lighter than that. But next year is subject, and with Saudi Aramco coming up, my guess is that they would like to keep that in place.
It's one thing OPEC saying and indeed agreeing to cut, but ultimately they may not.
No, I mean, and for OPEC, read Saudi Arabia, because don't forget 2 years ago it was Saudi Arabia who were in the process of deciding to try and get the expensive oil in the market off the market, and some of that expensive oil is in OPEC itself. We talked about Venezuela, and there are plenty of other high-cost producers within OPEC. It is perfectly possible for OPEC to do either. I mean, they could easily come back and have another let's flood the market. And then we would all be in, and don't forget it was $27 back in February. We could see the oil price, probably half from here if that was the case. I think that wouldn't make the IPO of Aramco go very well. So my feeling is that they're going to move heaven and earth to get some sort of a deal here. Whether it works or not is another matter.
Okay, that, as you say, possibly could push prices up to your target of $60 a barrel. 2017, do you have an inkling yet as to how it's looking for prices of a barrel of oil?
Well, I think if they cut back and actually mean it and do it, the oil price will be set quite fair, because as we look out towards the end of 17, those capex cuts we talked about coming through, it'll be interesting to see how the big economies move. Obviously in the US, they're beginning to think that things are looking a little better. It'll be important to see how Trump works that. Europe's a bit of a basket case still, and I think with all the elections in Italy and Germany and France and so on, and Austria, we may not have a very good European market. But I think that, the word is that India and China are performing a little better, perhaps. If they were to pick up or look as if they were going to pick up a little in the second half of 2017, it would be very important. And the oil market tries to look forward 6 months. And if the oil if the price actually works after the OPEC meeting, we get into the 50s, maybe towards 60. If it looks like it's a genuine deal and it's going to work, then that'll carry on through the first quarter of next year at least.
Okay, all right, 30th of November. Malcolm, thanks indeed for joining us. 30th of November is the date of that OPEC meeting, and we're expecting them to make that announcement on the day of the meeting, unless something happens in between and they have to push the meeting around a bit. But that's certainly the expectation. And Malcolm was saying that his target for the end of the year is $60 a barrel oil.